Hi, my name is Ann Edenfield-Sweet. I'm the Executive Director and the founder of Wings for Life International. And boy, do we have a treat for you tonight. Mark Herman is the CEO of Dion's Pizza, the best pizza around. And of course, we have to have Dion's Pizza if you live in New Mexico. And they're even expanding, I hope, soon to other places. But Mark has a very interesting story. He's talking about starting out as a busboy. And, you know, no life just goes in a straight pattern. So he didn't go straight from busboy straight to the CEO. But he's going to show us and share with us and tell us some stories about how he did grow from that busboy to CEO, and what were the challenges, how did he learn that, and how can we adapt this to our life. And that's the most important thing of all, taking the tips and the tools that he's going to share with us tonight. Mark has an economics degree from the University of New Mexico. He's a member of the Vistage and Leadership New Mexico team, and he leads just a team of wonderful staff. He will share with us tonight about how he trains his staff to be team players and how they make the company come alive under his leadership. And so I'm just absolutely thrilled to have him with us tonight, and I know all of us are going to learn so much. So help me welcome Mark Herman, the CEO of Dion's Pizza. Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Thank you, Ann, and thank you everybody who's on this evening. It's a great honor for me to be able to speak with you and share my story, with just the hope that maybe there's one piece or one thing or one idea that can help you along your journey as well. So, as Ann said, I want to start just telling you a little bit about what we're going to talk about. And Ann mentioned, you know, the journey is not a straight line. I didn't start and make pizzas and clean tables, and then the next day I became the CEO. It doesn't work that way. And in fact, none of our lives happen in straight lines. We have good days, we have bad days, maybe we have some other good days, but there's always obstacles, there's always failures, there's always challenges, and that's just the way those journeys work. So we'll talk about that tonight. I want to also talk a little bit about finding your why. What drives you? What helps you succeed when you do it? We're going to talk a little bit about asking for help, because I'm someone who always thinks I can do everything on my own. And I've had to learn in life that that's not true, that really I shine more when I ask for help from others. I'm going to talk about learning from my mistakes and how all of us can learn from our mistakes along the way, because no one leads a mistake-free life. We're going to talk about how we dream about things and think about things and come into this question of why not you? Why can't you be in the place you want to be or in the job you want to be in life? And we'll talk a little bit about something that I've come to believe all the time, which is if you want to go far, go together. Be someone who lifts other people up. So, who am I? So Ann mentioned I'm the CEO of Dion's Pizza, and I love that. That's great. In fact, I think when I talk to people, especially kids, you get like a 9-year-old kid, and I have the greatest job in the entire world to a 9-year-old kid. They're like, you make pizzas all day? I'm like, yes, I do. But it's not all about what I do at Dion's. So just because I'm the CEO of Dion's, I also want you to know I'm a failed investment banker. I've had other jobs that I was not good at, that I had to learn from. On one hand, I'm a proud father of 2. I have a son and a daughter who I love and adore. But I'm also divorced from a marriage that failed. I'm also fortunate that I have a second marriage, and I have 2 stepdaughters that I love. In life, to keep myself sane, I've learned that I have to be outside doing things, and so I've learned to run, and I learned to ski. And a couple of years ago, a friend taught me how to scuba dive. So you see a picture there, and that's in Hawaii, and swimming around underwater with a sea turtle. So such a cool experience that I had. what you see here on this slide is the back of a business card, because on the front it might have my name and my title, but on the back it has something I really believe in and something I'm really passionate about. And that is, if you want to go fast in life, you may have to go alone. But if you want to go far, if you really want to accomplish things, you go together. You go with other people. You go with those people who will help you and who you can help. And you get that support and you give that support. And that's an African proverb that I heard years ago that's really stuck with me, that I carry forward today. I did grow up here in Albuquerque. So grew up in a family of 5. It's a picture of my brother and sister, our dog, my parents, and I. And I owe a lot to my family. They've taken care of me and loved me and supported me. My mom, she was kind of hardcore. She was like, if I got an A on a test, but it wasn't 100, my mom would be like, well, what happened? How come you didn't get 100? And she was always driving for more and more, and she started businesses, never big businesses, but she raised dogs. She learned about how to feed the dogs and help keep them from getting sick or getting cancer, and then she was able to teach that to other people and started her own dog food store. My dad drove this 1972 Volkswagen Bug for about 30 years. Everything he did, every penny he had, he put towards helping me and my brother and sister go to school, because that's what he thought was the way for us to do better than he had, to have more than he had, was to get an education. And I appreciate him for that. They taught me how to work. So I grew up here in Albuquerque, and I had odd jobs when I was a teenager. You know, I pulled weeds and I mowed yards. And I got my first job actually at Burger King in Albuquerque. And that was all right. It was okay, but I didn't love it. And so by the time I was a senior in high school and I went looking for a job, I went to this pizza place called Dion's. And I got a job there making pizzas, answering phones, cleaning tables, doing dishes. And it was pretty fun. It was fun because of the people. But my dream was to someday become a stockbroker. I wanted to go to New York, and I wanted to make lots of money, and I thought that was the life. I'd seen that movie Wall Street, and I thought, oh my gosh, I want to do that someday. And so I went to the University of Colorado and started getting a degree in economics. And after that first year in Colorado, I came back and I worked at Dion's again in the summer. Then I went back to school in Colorado, came back, worked at Dion's in the summer. Somewhere along the way in my 3rd year, like a lot of us, being a young man at that time, you know, I fell in love. And I thought, oh my gosh, how can I be in Colorado without my girlfriend? And so I moved back to New Mexico. And I worked at Dion's again and worked my way through college at UNM. So it was a great job to be able to go to school and work and have that kind of balance and make it all work. And when I got that degree, though, I thought, hey, I have my degree. Now I don't have to work in the food business. Like the food business, that's just for starting out. So I don't want to do that forever. And I got a job at a place called Mass Mutual. And, you know, I'm 51 years old. So back in those days, to communicate with people, you know, it wasn't through the internet and things. It was through the phone book. If you had to find somebody or call somebody, you needed a phone book. So I got my tests taken and my licenses, and I was all ready to sell. I could sell investments, and I could sell insurance. And my boss came in, and he put the phone book down on the table, and he said, you start selling. So I quietly, sheepishly, scared, opened the phone book, and I called this random person out of the phone book and say, hello, ma'am, would you like to buy some life insurance? And people hung up on me, people yelled at me, people cursed at me, and those were the nice ones. Like, people do not want you calling and trying to sell them stuff, or they didn't want me doing it. I was awful at that job. I sold 2 life insurance policies when I had that job. One was to my wife and one was to me. So I couldn't even sell something to my parents or my brother and my sister. I was that bad. And that dream that I'd had for years died when I realized I couldn't do that. So I went back And I started working again at Dion's. And the owners at that time, the two founders, they said, Mark, you should become a store manager for us. Like, we think you could do this job. And I thought, I don't know. I don't want to be in restaurants forever. And then I thought, well, but hey, it does pay better than what I make right now. So, maybe I'll do this for a while. So I thought I'll do it for a year. And when I got that job and I started managing that Dion's, I realized something. I realized that what I was good at, maybe I wasn't good at selling, but what I was good at is I was good at working as a team. I was good at talking to my coworkers and saying, hey, how you doing today? Let's work on this together. Hey, how was your day today? How's school going for you? And I would talk to them and learn about them. And what happened is we became a team. And I learned that my superpower came when I lifted other people up. When I took the young people that I was working with and cared about their lives, cared about how they were doing. Maybe they had problems at school or problems at home, and we could talk about those things. Or maybe they had a parent who was sick, and we could talk about that, and I could ask how they were doing. Those kinds of connections made us stronger as a team. And then we could get stuff done at work, too. And over the years, I've learned to call that my why. And some of you may have heard, I believe he spoke to this Wings for Life group a while back, but a man named Gary Sanchez, a friend of mine, and he has a thing called the Why Institute. And you can go online to thewhyinstitute.com, and you can learn, he asks you a series of questions. You can learn about what drives you, what makes you successful. And so what I've learned over the years is that my why is contribute. I'm at my best, and I succeed when I'm contributing to a cause greater than myself. When I was focused on how big and bad I could be, that didn't work. But when I invested time in other people and started to build a team, that's when I found success. So I've built that into a thing I call listen, care, and act. I call that my how. When I walk into a room with people I work with, it's not to tell them what to do. It's not to say, hey, you do this, you do this. It's not being bossy. It's to listen. First thing, ask questions. How's it going? How are you doing today? Hey, do you think there's a better way we could do this? Hey, what's hard about this, and how could we make it easier? How could we help this customer better? Just be curious and ask questions. And then when people answer those questions, care. Genuine care for other people. Because when we know more about people, we can help them. And so then the last part, it's listen, care, and then it's act. Do something to support them, whether it's a customer or an employee. Maybe all I can do that day is say, hey, I think you can do this. I know you're going to do well today. Maybe it's just words of encouragement. Or maybe it's reaching them and connecting them to someone else who can teach them or who can help them, or connecting them with another friend or a counselor or somebody in their life that can help. However I can encourage and support others is a way to succeed. So listen, care, and act. And what do I ask of my employees in return? It's kind of the what of this. And I'll be honest, if any of you out there are thinking, what's the way to get ahead at work, especially in a place like a restaurant? And I say it's doing things that show you aren't just there to do what someone tells you to do. You're paid to think. As an employer, as a manager or a leader, I can't possibly train my employees to deal with every situation they're going to have to deal with. I can't. There's just too many. So I want to find people who think for themselves, people who say, hey, I know normally we do this for a customer, but this customer needs something different. I'm going to help them this way. Someone who's going to go out of their way to hold the door because they're thinking about, hey, that customer, that she's got her kids with her. I bet if I hold the door for her, that'll be better. Think. That's what we want from people, not just do what you're told. You're paid to think. So those things led to some success for me. And in the late 90s to 2000, I went from that store manager role into a regional manager. So I managed a group of Dion's. And then I got a big opportunity. We were going to start Dion's in Salt Lake City, Utah. And so I got the opportunity to go open that store. Little did I know at the time, you see that picture there, the picturesque, beautiful mountains and the store there, and it's going to be so awesome, and we're going to be so popular. And all it was my next big failure. We didn't pick the right site. We picked a bad site for the store. We didn't know how to do marketing. No one knew who we were or what we were about. We had trouble getting the food there. We're known for ranch dressing, and we would have ranch dressing that would get there all broken and frozen, and it was awful. We were bad. I was bad. So it lasted about a year, a little more than a year, and I was in charge of that project that lost over $1 million. So it was not a high point in my life. I am fortunate that the two guys who owned the company at the time, the founders of the company, said, "Hey, we've seen you do good work. We believe in you." Now, I want to take a second and talk about some of these big failures and things in a different way. So it's not just in work, but also in other things in life where we can learn about who we are and how to grow. So I grew up playing soccer. Played for a lot of years. And when my daughter was young, I had the chance to coach some girls. So you see that picture of the girls team I coached here. And I learned a lot from coaching those girls. They probably taught me more than I ever taught them. But when I knew that they needed a better coach than me, I reached out and I talked to this guy, Jorge Vela, who you see in this picture here. So Jorge was the coach of the UNM women's soccer team. And I asked Jorge, I said, "Hey, would you help us? Like, I know these girls can do better and be better, but I think I need help coaching." And he taught me one of the best lessons I've learned in my entire life. So it was the first day he worked with us. So Jorge comes to practice, and he has the girls line up, and about 5 to 10 yards apart, there's a cone, and a girl sitting there, a cone, a girl there. And they each had a soccer ball, and what they were doing was simply dribbling the soccer balls at each other, avoid each other, go around the cones, and do it again. So that's pretty simple. They're just dribbling around the cones, dribbling around each other. And as that drill starts, I'm walking around thinking I'm a good coach, and I say, "Hey, slow that down a little bit. Try using the inside of your foot." I'm giving them all this advice as if I have some great skill. And eventually Jorge walks over and he's like, "Mark, just be quiet." So I quiet down. And now Jorge walks around. The girls are still dribbling. He's like, "Let's go, girls, let's go. Faster, faster, come on, let's go." And he starts to encourage them. And then he says, more mistakes. I want to see more mistakes. Let's go, faster." And he's encouraging and encouraging. The girls start going faster. And the soccer balls start flying. And the girls they're laughing and they're having fun. But some of them are getting better. Some of them are getting faster and faster as they do this. In fact, I think all of them, by the end, were doing it faster than they were originally. And then he gathers all the girls around and he says, "Girls, if you ever want to see how good you can be, you have to make more mistakes. You have to be able to push yourself past what you can already do. You got to take some chances if you want to be great." And wow, as a coach, I realized how I held them back. How I was so scared, I was telling them how to be careful, how to do what they could already do. And he was teaching them how to learn and grow and be better from their mistakes. And I've never forgotten that lesson. So in work, we talk about making those kinds of decisions, knowing when to take a chance, when not to take a chance. And we talk about one-way doors and two-way doors. So a one-way door. Example of a one-way door, that's a decision you make that once you make it, it's really hard to come back from. You don't get to make it over again. And I think in our lives, we all have those decisions that maybe we've made and we go, oh man, I wish I hadn't made that decision. And it's hard to come back from. Those are one-way doors. We want to think about those things before we do them. We want to ask for advice. We want to seek out friends, family, other people who could help us make a good decision when we see a one-way door. Now, we might see a two-way door, and that's a decision that's easier. A two-way door is a decision we make, and heck, that's easy to change. I mean, a silly example would be something like, I got to figure out where I'm going to eat today, or I have to figure out what I want to wear today. Well, you can change that. You can go back in your room and change into something else later. That's a two-way door. And we have two-way door decisions in life too. So important to know which kind you're making so you know if you need to slow down and think it through or if you can make it quickly. So back to work. So after I came back from Utah, I was very fortunate. I did well. I had good people around me, and I was promoted to a vice president of operations position. And instead of being so far away in Salt Lake City, we built stores in Los Lunas, in Santa Fe, and we started to grow the company a little bit more. I also knew, though, that I wanted more. I thought I could do more. I saw the founders of the company, and I thought, someday I want to be the leader of this company. I want to be the CEO. I want to maybe even own this company or own some of this company someday. And I was lucky because I met this guy you see on the picture here. His name is Michael Mack. And I met him through a friend. Michael Mack started and owned restaurants in California. And they were called Sweet Tomatoes. So we even ended up having some of those in New Mexico for a while too. And I asked him at one point, I knew he mentored some people and helped them. And so I called him one day and said, hey, Michael, I'm trying to figure out how I take the next step in my career and in my life. And, would you mentor me? And he looked at me, he answered in the phone. He's like, Mark, no, absolutely not. I'm like, why not? And he said, well, I really don't have time. I'm too busy, but I'll give you 1 hour of my time. And that 1 hour of time that Michael Mack gave me helped to change my life. And he asked me a series of questions, but I want to talk to you about some of the ones that I feel like were the most important. He asked me, Mark, what is it that you really want to be doing? And I said, well, I want to become like the CEO or the president of this company. I've been at Dion's a long time. I think I have ideas on what we can do better and how we can grow, and I think I can do that job. And he said, okay, have you ever said that out loud? Do people know you want that job? And I said, well, I'm saying it out loud to you, but no, I don't think I've ever said it. I hadn't said it to my family. I hadn't said it to anyone at work. I hadn't said it to my bosses. And then we talked a little bit about, okay, well, if you want that job, why would they pick you? What do you do well? So we talked a little bit about my skills and building teams and working with people. And they asked a follow-up question to that, which is, if you want that job, how does somebody who would get that job, how would they act? So I thought, okay, the perfect person for that CEO job would do, and I described to him the way they would work with the owners, the way they would work with the bankers, the way they would work with the employees, and just how that person would carry themselves and behave. And Michael Mack said, well, if you can tell me how somebody can do that job, then why not you? Why aren't you doing those things? Like, why do you have to wait for them to give you that title to start acting on those things? And I said, wow, you're right. I mean, I can be pushing those new ideas. I can be doing these things now. And it turned out that when I made that change to how I behaved, that's when the people around me saw me as the leader. That's when the founders saw me as the leader, it was because I changed how I was acting, not because they gave it to me. But that is, in fact, once they saw that change, why they said, hey, we think you're the guy for the job. So I know you have time to talk in a few minutes here, but I want you to just pause for a second and think, what is it that you would really like to be doing? Where do you want to be? Whether it's, now, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whenever that is, where do you want to be? Have you said it out loud? Have you told people you care about in life, or people who can help you, or people who can mentor you or teach you? Have you said that to them, what your dream is? And what are those things that move you towards that dream? How does someone who ends up realizing that dream, how did they act? What kind of things do they do when they get up in the morning? What kinds of things do they do when they interact with people? Because you can start being that now. You may not have the title, but you can be that now. So while those things are going on and success is happening, I just want to remind you about that journey not being a straight line. So I'm having that work success, but I was struggling at home. Behind the scenes, things in a lot of ways in my life were falling apart. And went through a lot of tough times with my ex-wife that led to the failure of our marriage, things around addiction and treatment, and tough times that tore us apart. And I thank a lot of people in my life for the help that she and I both got, but we had to ask for help. Saw counselors and other people that really helped each of us get better and move on. But it's not a straight line. No matter what someone appears, they have hard times, they have struggles in their life, even when it looks different. And that asking for help, even in other ways. So I talk about things I like to do outside to keep myself sane. And I had a friend who challenged me. He said, Mark, I'm going to do this 50K run. So 50K is about 31 miles. And it's a race that happens at Mount Taylor near Grants. And so he convinced me to try it. And so I would go out. I thought I could do this on my own. I thought, all right, I could do this. So I started running, and I ran, 10 or 11 miles, and I would be so dehydrated and so sore that I couldn't walk the next day, just laying on my floor trying to take ibuprofen to make sure I could get up and go to work. But what I soon started to realize when I was out there is I would meet people out there running on the trails, and so I started to talk to people. And I asked them, hey, how long have you been doing this? And these couple guys you see in the pictures, people that I met out in the trails. And they gave me advice. They talked to me about, hey, you got to run these steep hills slower. If you run these too fast, you'll never make 30 miles. And they taught me how to hydrate, like how to keep enough fluid to make it 30 miles, or what to eat along the way. You got to eat. When you run that far, it turns out you got to eat along the way. I didn't know that. So what snacks do you take with you, and how do you do that? So many things in life have been like this, but these are the people who got me through that, and I was eventually able to do that run. But because of other people helping me. So I want to kind of begin to close here and remind you that no one's journey is a straight line. I want to encourage you to find your why. What are those things that when you do them make you successful? For me, it's how I try to help others, because when I help others, I succeed. We got to learn from our mistakes. We all have them. There is nobody gets through it unscathed. The question is, can we learn and do better next time? And then when we have those dreams in life, when we see people doing the things that we want to do, well, why not you? Why not us? Why not? Can I start doing the things that will get me on that path to become who I want to be or where I want to be? And then don't be afraid to ask for help, because we all need help getting where we want to go. And if you want to go far, I'll remind you, last thing, go together. Thank you all for paying attention. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn it back to Ann.
Wow. That was fantastic, wasn't it? I knew it was going to be, and boy, I was thinking we don't need Michael Mack in our lives. We've got you. We got to hear from an expert, and you didn't have to spend an hour of your time with a top expert. You just spent 30 minutes with somebody, and the wisdom, the bullet points that he gave us for success are just so powerful. And, I was writing down a few notes here. The journey to success often isn't a straight line. It usually isn't. You don't usually just start here and go straight there. Usually there are always ups and downs. And acting like a boss. I always tell people, act like the boss. When you act like a boss, the boss is going to notice you, right? And you're going to climb that ladder, and you're going to start to do well, and ask for help. And boy, I'll tell you, Mark just taught us that. Turn to people and ask for help. Learn from the experts, and then you can become the person you want to be. We do have a placemat on our website at wingsfly.org. There are all kinds of points here that he's given us. I believe in you, the journey from busboy to CEO. And there are all kinds of things that you can look at there. Then also, I always close with a story. So now we're going to close with a story. And this one is called Enjoy the Coffee. I wasn't exactly sure where Mark was going to go with this, but I think this fits in very well. So a group of alumni, highly established in their careers, got together to visit their old university professor. And conversation soon turned into complaints about stress in work and life. Well, the professor decided he was going to offer his guests coffee, and he went to the kitchen, and he returned with a large pot of coffee and an assortment of cups. Some were porcelain, plastic, glass, crystal, some plain-looking, some very expensive, and he told them to help themselves to the coffee. Well, when all the students had a cup of coffee in hand, the professor said, "If you noticed, all the nice-looking, expensive cups have been taken up, leaving behind the plain and cheap ones. While it is but normal that you would want only the best for yourself, that is sometimes the source of your problems and stress. Be assured that the cup itself adds no quality to the coffee in most cases. It's just more expensive, and in some cases even hides what we drink. What all of you really wanted, I think, was coffee, not the cup. But you consciously went for the best cups and then began eyeing each other's cups. Now consider this, that life is like the coffee, and the jobs, the money, the position in society are the cups. They are just tools to hold and contain life. And the type of cup we have does not define nor change the quality of life that we live. Sometimes, by only concentrating on the cup, we fail to enjoy the coffee that is provided to us. So I want you to think about the job that you have. Are you happy in the job? How can you make it better? How can you maximize your life to where every time you're drinking that coffee, you're getting the best that you can out of it? And I think if we take all the tips that Mark has shared with us today, that we are going to better our lives and reach that potential and get what we want out of life. I thank you for being with us here tonight. I always just love having all of our speakers and learning so much from one another. Now, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, this is going to be the end of our program, but for those of you on Zoom, we are going right into our Zoom programming. And I'd like to remind you that next week, we're going to have Angel Garcia. He heads up the violence intervention program for the city of Albuquerque. And he is a very interesting man. He is a returning citizen. So he knows all about violence and how he has also now turned his life around. And now he is doing what he is called to do, and he is just enjoying the coffee in his new position. So thank you for being with us on Facebook. And now we are going to go into live Zoom.